It's the award-winning Goodwill Time Car Talk Show. Just ahead, are closed EV manufacturing plants ruining the cities where they're located? Think about that. Later, Jeff has the racing calendar, Mars has This Week in Auto History, and I'll have the stories making automotive news headlines. That's all coming up. Howdy and good morning to you, along with Mike, Out of This World Mars. We always need more Jeff Zekin. Chief Engineer David Ainsley, he's listening. I'm Don Armstrong. So glad that you could join us today. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Do we have our guest, Mr. Mars?
Yes, sir, we do.
And his name, his name is Sunderesh Heragu. And Sunderesh has been with us before. He is a professor at Oklahoma State University. And he is also the president of the Institute of Industrial and Systems Engineers.
Awesome.
And the list goes on and on. Yeah. He's got all these wonderful titles, and well-deserved, I might add. But I can tell you that this guy is way smarter than you and me, and all of us combined.
Yeah.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. I don't know about this being smarter than you guys, so we'll leave it there.
Well, listen, you're not in the broadcasting business, so that right there makes you smarter
you're
than
qualified.
us. How about that? We'll just leave it at that. Well, it's great to have you with us again. We love talking to you. So our subject today is EV factory locations turning portions of cities into desert wastelands. And, I have to tell you that when I first started thinking about that, I thought, I haven't thought about that. Because here in Houston, when a business closes, there's something, generally speaking, that moves right in and fills the space.
Yep.
But these businesses for EV manufacturing, batteries, assembly plants, all of the storage that has to go in to thinking about building an EV, it's really a lot different than building an engine, internal combustion engine. It doesn't take as many parts. It's a different setup because now you're dealing with electric motors and all of the things that go along with electric motors. Yes, the car part of it, that's the simple part. But to me, all of the computers and all of the electric motors, the electronics of an EV, completely different, really, than an ICE engine, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the longer oil and gas prices stay at this level, yes, for a while, I think we're going to see all these abandoned factories or investments not fully completed. But the manufacturing lines of an EV are different than what you would see for an internal combustion engine. But going back, Don, to your comment about these factories that could be an eyesore, I think it's a matter of time. If gas prices stay at this level for an extended period, you can see other companies from other countries perhaps wanting to utilize that infrastructure, that space, and begin producing EVs. And maybe the big three will jump in as well. I know most recently, I think they've disinvested, I think, about $50 billion, the big three combined, in EVs. But I'm thinking it's a short-term thing. I think EVs are the future. Autonomous vehicles are the future. So when I see big companies kind of shelving their projects, I wonder if it is short-sighted.
Well, that's certainly a very good point to make. And the fact that you had mentioned that other foreign companies are going to come in and fill the roles, and you and I both know that China is about to jump on all of this. They've already announced that they're going to be taking over factories that are idle right now over in Canada. Mm-hmm. And it's only a matter of time before they start invading us. And there are multiple facets involved in that, but this is huge competition for established automobile makers here in the United States, whether they're brought in from BMW Germany, a Subaru from Japan, or the American car makers, because I have seen a Chinese-made vehicle, and let me tell you something, the quality is extremely high, and I think that it is going to be a real market change to everybody when you see these, for instance, BYD is kind of like the General Motors, if you will,
Yeah,
of China.
right.
When you see these vehicles, you're going to go, oh my gosh, this wasn't even thought of here in the United States. This goes back to Maybach and all the high-end builders from back in the day.
Well-
It's here today.
Well, you talked about Canada with relations to China. That was actually announced that they have trade deals. That was a few months ago,
Yes.
maybe even late last year, that they're announcing trade deals. And the United States opinion of that was, make trade deals whoever you want, just make sure they're good trade deals. So that was all part of that, taking over all of the abandoned or idle factories.
Yeah. And I will tell you that it seems to me, now I don't really know, I'm just guessing, that some of these battery manufacturing companies, LG for instance, that they may have backed out of actual factory that they were building for the time being. But that is a major manufacturer of electronics, as we all know. I can't imagine that thing is going to sit idle. And we're talking about hundreds of thousands of square feet that these
Yep.
buildings take.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Let's just talk a little bit about BYD. BYD's got sales, exploding, I think, all over the world. Countries like Brazil, India, Mexico. Of course, in India, companies like Mahindra and Tata are introducing a number of EVs. Mind you, the charging infrastructure is not as good as it needs to be there, but still the EV sales are exploding. Go to places like Manila, Europe, Norway, for example, right? They produce so much oil and gas, but still the government offers incentives for EV sales. You have better deals on the tollways and all that. And so I think, 60-70% of their new car sales are EVs. A country like Nepal, right? 70% of their new car sales in 2024, I don't have the data for 2025, but in 2024, they were EVs, right? So that's what is happening all over the world. Yes, LG may be pausing its investment here in the US, but they're not doing that in other places. And the other thing too that you touched upon, Don, is the trade deals that Canada and China have. I mean, a lot of the trade relationships have been unwound since Liberation Day about a year ago.
Yes.
A lot of supply chains are being reimagined, being redesigned, being redeployed. It's still in a state of flux, but I think many countries are beginning to realize you can't just kind of be dependent on one lucrative large market that is the US, especially when the tariff situation keeps changing, and now we have the oil price and I guess essentially a closure of the Strait of Hormuz. So yes, countries like India that depend on LPG, LNG for cooking gas, but also for their three-wheel taxis, the auto rickshaws. That supply is hit, so they're all figuring out, EVs are the way to go. So a lot of scooters, three-wheelers are also being produced in the EV mode rather than ICE.
It's interesting that you should say scooters because we see these here in the United States. That was a huge Christmas gift this past year here in the U.S. And these kids are doing 50 miles an hour on a scooter. I'm going, do you have any idea what that's going to do to your knees when you fall? Because I know for a fact that it hurts really bad as a kid, but live and learn. I want to go back to desert wastelands, and that's what we're kind of focusing in on these big plants that either EV related, supporting, or manufacturing EVs that they've all kind of pulled back for the time being, as you mentioned. But, desert wastelands for cars of any kind are not something new because, and I'm going to use Stellantis as somebody that manages to close plants and not reopen them, say they're going to reopen them. They get close to reopening them, and they don't. There's one in the southern end of Wisconsin, right there, the northern Illinois, and that has been, they've manufactured all sorts of stuff since the 1960s, and the plant is massive. Car manufacturing plants are just big anyway. And this particular plant, I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, this particular plant, I'll think of it in a minute. This particular plant is still closed. It's been closed now for almost 10 years. What it does to the population and all of those people that it employs, that's really, to me, where the desert wasteland comes in, because what are those people going to do? They know how to build a car, but they don't have another manufacturing plant nearby. They can pick up and move or find other work, but these industrial cities are based on large employment figures. And what do you do when the plant closes? It's the only thing in town. It's tough.
Yep. And to that point, to Don's point, what about the Packard plant in Detroit? 3.5 million square feet. It's still it's abandoned. They've actually made movies in that facility. They did a couple of Batman movies and apocalyptic.
Apocalyptic.
There you
Yes,
go.
yeah.
That one. It's very excited. Those types of movies and things there as well. But the Packard plant comes to mind as the front runner in abandoned buildings.
Yeah, the Packard plant.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that, what are you going to do? You're going to tear it down? My brother worked at the Janesville Assembly Plant in Wisconsin for many, many years, and it was a very old plant. And General Motors decided, we're done with it. We're not going to rebuild there. They actually physically tore down this ginormous factory where they made everything from Suburbans down to Vegas throughout the decades. Mm-hmm. And all of those people lost their jobs. Yeah. They don't have a job anymore, so they've had to find other work. There are other manufacturers up there, but not auto manufacturers. And so they've had to move. And it becomes a huge eyesore. The city wound up taking the property, but it's still sitting there with a big pile of rubble. What is the city going to do with it? They've got it, but there's nothing to put on it. It's a very complicated thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think it changes the character of the community, right? It's not just the factory shutting down, but the mom and pop stores that support the employees and their purchases and things like that. Whether it's a grocery store or a small clothing store or appliance or a hardware store.
Right.
It just kind of decimates everything there. So I think the companies, if they put more of a focus on the long term, I think you can find a good case for bringing back these plants, whether it's for EV production or maybe gasoline production or even hybrid. But again, you need to have that long-term view, right? I think focus on, I think a lot of the CEOs are probably looking at the stock prices, which fluctuate, especially these days. And so they look at it and say, there's so much uncertainty out there. I'm just going to make short-term decisions. And a lot of this is, by the way, driven by uncertainty that exists in the market, in the US especially. And so everybody's on a holding pattern when it comes to investments. And so they're not willing to look at either the company that owns that abandoned property or somebody else like Magna or part suppliers who could come in there and utilize that space because it's probably being offered at a premium if they want to purchase it. Sorry, not a premium, but a huge discount if the owner wants to offer it. But again, not having certainty in the market, in oil prices, in just the economy itself, right? I mean, inflation is still up. Yesterday it went up a little bit. It's 3.3%. It was actually going down, but now it's ticking back up. So, companies are looking at how much disposable income do people have. They're paying more for gases. They're paying more for energy. Are they going to keep their car longer, or are they going to invest in a new car, whether it's electric or ICE? So all these things, I think, are uncertainty is just causing companies to put a hold on investment, and that's not helping the situation either.
Yeah, you bring up the inflation rate, 3.5, kind of uptick every now and then, a little downtick and so on. But that's they're now figuring out that there are other plans, the automakers, because of that. It still is low, but it's still not low. It's kind of a mind game. It was at one time, not very long ago, 9% for the inflation rate, and there was no plan after that or for that. Now that it's down, people are considering, well, yeah, I can work with that. Where are we going to be so it doesn't happen again?
Well,
so I think that's what they're working on.
Let me also add to the fact about these great big, million square feet buildings. So many times the actual cities that they're located in will give tax abatements.
Sure.
They will do everything that they can. They'll gather up investments because they want the employees in their city to help with the tax base itself.
Right.
And so there's that aspect of it. We haven't even touched on that. So there's a huge investment. And let me just add to this as we're running out of time here. Here in Houston, we have very, very many large warehouses. I think that there is a Amazon facility almost on every dang corner these days. And that's not to say that, Amazon could go into one of these million square foot buildings, take a chunk of it for their use, and they divide the building up. I think that those kind of things have already been talked about, and I think that that's also a possibility if they sit idle too long. But there's so many components to all of this Rust Belt property that's sitting idle right now. And I think that there's going to be an actual decision to be made here in the not too distant future. But let me also say that I think that the way that things are going right now, if you need a car, as opposed to buying an EV today, where here in Houston, we don't have the infrastructure to be able to justify the price of that. But I will say that there are some hybrid vehicles out there that are affordable and that raise the mileage of a car almost by double. And I think that you could find something in that regard and actually help the environment and your pocketbook when it comes to gasoline prices.
Yeah, just one quick comment in addition to warehouses. Like you mentioned, in Houston area, you've got Wayfair and Amazon and many other companies having large warehouses. That's only one use for this abandoned space, but also data centers, right? I think a lot of companies are looking for establishing data centers. So to the extent that the energy prices around are affordable, I guess that could be another use. Although I would say that data centers don't employ a lot of people. So the employment situation still remains. So I think there's probably, maybe local governments and state governments can take up the mantle and say, okay, how do we bring foreign investors in, whether it's LG, battery production or EV production or something else, and try to bring them in so that space, basically they can offer it for free, right? Because it's such a beaten down property, and then the taxes and all that make it lucrative for companies to rebuild in some of the infrastructure already existing.
Is it okay if I call you Sonny?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I mean, Sunderesh is just a little bit harder for me to say than Sonny. And so, I no disrespect whatsoever, but when we leave you here, I want to go through some of the titles that this man has because he's absolutely brilliant. And I have to tell you, I love talking to you. You always bring out the worst in me, and because I'm going, wait, this is way over my head. What am I talking about here?
Exactly.
It really is a true pleasure and honor to talk to you. And thank you so much for joining us today. Please let's stay in touch. Let's talk here in another 3 or 4 months, okay?
Absolutely. And you are very kind with those words.
I'm just being honest. Sonny, thanks again. We'll talk to you again soon.
Appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So, president of the Institute of Industrial and Systems Engineers, Regents Professor, holds a John Hendricks Chair at Oklahoma State University, served as Associate Dean for Academic Affairs at the College of Engineering, Architecture, and Technology, head of the School of Industrial Engineering and Management at OSU. Humphrey's chair prior to that. He was the Mary Lee and George F. Duthie Chair in Engineering Logistics in the Industrial Engineering Department of the University of Louisville, and the list goes on. I just read you half.
Oh yeah, I got a
And
friend.
OSU is Oklahoma State University.
Yeah,
As opposed to what?
Ohio State University.
No, this is Oklahoma.
I had a friend.
That's what I
of
know.
mine-
I'm just clarifying.
I had a friend of mine that was inmate of the month at county. So
What's that?
Had his picture up on the wall and everything,
everything, yep.
Just ahead, Jeff has the racing calendar. Mars has This Week in Auto History, and I'll bring you this week's automotive news headlines. The In-Wheel Time Car Talk Show continues in just a minute. The Tex-Mex dining experience is defined by Lupe Tortilla, your destination for Texas's best beef fajitas and frozen margaritas. Since 1983, Lupe Tortilla has served authentic and time-tested recipes made with the freshest ingredients. Atmosphere is part of the award-winning experience at Lupe Tortilla, all developed in a little house near Highway 6 and I-10 in West Houston. Visit any of the Lupe Tortillas and you'll see the same attention to detail in each and every location. Start your Lupe experience with queso flammeado and guacamole, along with a classic frozen margarita. Dine on famous Lupe beef and chicken fajitas, or pepper shrimp brochette, or a fish or vegetarian entree, and finish with a scrumptious flan for dessert. Find Lupe Tortilla in Houston, College Station, Beaumont, Austin, San Antonio, and Dallas-Fort Worth. There's a Texas location near you. The recipes are authentic and time-tested. The ingredients always fresh. Lupe Tortilla, he's pretty good. Apple or Android, In-Wheel Time podcast can be found everywhere, on the stream and through downloads. Whether you're on the road or at home and jonesing for a different kind of car talk show, give In-Wheel Time a try. Honest new car reviews, fun, informative interviews with real car people, weekly automotive news, features like Jeff's Car Culture and Mike's Driving Destinations, all on In-Wheel Time. Check us out on SiriusXM Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or while you're shopping on Amazon, through Amazon Music. InWheelTime.com has a list, and we know you love lists. Week, we're going to be right back here in the In-Wheel Time studios, our dual city studios, as a matter of fact. And we invite you to tune in, listen, watch, whatever, on InWheelTime.com, Facebook, and YouTube. If you miss that, you'll be able to connect through a podcast from your favorite podcast channel anytime. Time now for the racing calendar, sponsored by the Texas Muscle Car Club Challenge.
Thank you for that. Hey, we got NASCAR. They are at Bristol this weekend. I watched a little bit of the truck race last night. A lot of wrecks. Of course, Bristol's Bristol, the Bristol baby. So,
Let me ask you this. Why do they race on a half-mile oval?
because
That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my entire
They've
life.
been doing it for years.
I know, but so?
It's NASCAR. There you go. They're going to beat
I
the
stepped
dead
on my
horse.
toe last week.
Well,
I'm not
you're
going to do it again this week.
Yes, you are, because it's NASCAR. But I think there was more people on the infield with the teams than there was in the stands. Seriously, I was focused on as they do the wide shots and they come around.
Jeff, I mean,
There's hardly anybody. They did them on the front straight and the back
how
straight.
much is a ticket?
I have no idea.
I bet you it's $100 a seat.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Would I go?
I used to quite a bit.
I did. I did too. If it was in my backyard, probably. But it was only in my backyard once a year. Okay, I would go. But to tune into something like that?
Next week they're going to be in Kansas, and I've been to Kansas many, many times. Hey, you know what else this weekend? NHRA. They are at the Winter Nationals, the In-N-Out Burger Pomona Drag Strip. That's going on the 9th through the 12th, so there'll be finals tomorrow.
I love Pomona.
If it's live and if there's not a tiddlywink contest going on that they have to be interrupted by. Or underwater basket weaving is more important, too.
Underwater basket weaving.
Yeah, hold your breath. IndyCar racing, they are at Long Beach, and that's next weekend. So we got a time to wait for that. I gotta save this one. Oh, you know what I got? And Formula One, they're on a hiatus because of the conflict, the Bahrain Grand Prix and the
Just
Saudi
bring it over
Arabia.
here to Houston.
They're going to be in Miami on May 3rd, so we got a couple weeks after that. And my favorite, I've got the 2026 calendar of lawnmower racing. You bet.
Are they bringing it here?
No, but this
And
week,
what kind of grass do they run it on?
you got the NAS grass, like NASCAR. This
Yeah.
is the NAS grass race day. It is in Fort Meade, Florida, and it's going on today.
How many people can you get at Fort Meade?
If you got a mower, you get in free. Okay, there you go. So we're going to update.
Does it have to be a rider?
Yes. Were you going to take a push mower to a race?
No. But you,
Well, you know.
how about those that the guy actually stands on a little platform behind it? He doesn't sit down. He stands on a platform behind it.
It's like the garden people.
It's like a chariot race.
Yeah. There you go. And you know about that.
I invented it. All right,
We're frozen.
Time now for This Week in Auto History, Mr. Mars.
Yes, sir. So we found a few things this week that we thought were really interesting in automotive history. And we're going to start with April the 6th. Now, this is whenever Audi was founded. Now, the August Horsch actually established Audi. He was actually with a company called Horsch Automobiles. He helped create that company, started it out from scratch. And then he lost that in a little bit of a conflict with the with his partners. Now he ended up going and creating his own company, which he named Audi, which is actually a translation of Horsch into the German language. So that's how that name came about. And it went through a lot of iterations, a lot of mergers and things, and it finally ended up with the Volkswagen Group where it is now. Now, on April the 8th in 1911, the Electric Auto Light Company was founded. Now, this was important because they produce electrical components, and they produce enough of them for enough of the different companies that were being created that it helped standardize the automotive electronics that came during that period of growth. Now, you may have heard of the Auto Light Company, but the Auto Light name was actually associated a whole lot with Ford. Ford bought them. It was part of their spark plugs, a lot of things like that. And they ended up, lawsuits, etc., lawyers got involved again. They ended up selling Auto Light name to Bandex. And then whenever it also created, and what was left of it went to create Prestolite, which you may see and hear, because that's what helped get cars away from the systems they developed, got away from the hand cranks over to the starters that they happened to be building. Then in April the 10th, 1925, the Chrysler launched the Model 70. Now, this was really their first vehicle, and it created a lot of engineering innovations that kind of brought on to the industry. The high-compression engines, four-wheel hydraulic brakes were introduced on this vehicle. So it set a lot of standards for the future as the cars came into the market, as well as for Chrysler. Now, on April the 10th, 1912, the RMS Titanic sailed. Now, I bring up the Titanic because it's not really an automotive event, but it was such a big disaster. So many people got involved in looking at the safety things that could have been done to prevent that or help minimize the damage that was done to it and create all this mitigation and rolled over into the automotive segments. And cars became a lot more safer because of the things that people learned from that disaster. Now, on April the 11th, 1947, Kaiser Fraser Corporation was created. Now, this was, of course, Henry J. Kaiser and Joseph W. Fraser. They launched that to challenge Detroit's Big Three. Now, they had a lot of bold styling, a lot of things going on in that. And the company founded with two different models. The Kaiser was a front-wheel drive model, and the Fraser was a rear-wheel drive model. Now, they were involved, and they built from 1942 to 1943. It evolved into buying Willis, and then got into the Jeeps and a lot of other things before they actually went out of business. The April 5th, 1936, the introduction of the Lincoln Zephyr. Now, this vehicle was made from 1936 to 1942. It had the V12 engine in it. It was a little more affordable than some of the other Lincoln models, so it was really a market hit. However, World War II started. A lot of companies stopped production. And the Lincoln, when it came back out of World War II, started production again. However, it no longer had that Zephyr name. So it just really wasn't resurrected. And that's a few of the things we found this week in automotive history that we thought were pretty interesting. So, and now we've got a few other problems here, and we are going to, Don's doing headlines, but Don's not here right at the moment. And see if we can get them back on here. There they are.
Wes, we're here. We've been fiddling with stuff over here,
Well,
trying to get
Fiddling?
ourselves back on the air. But
Fiddlers.
let's take a break, shall we, Mr. Mars? The In-Wheel Time Car Talk Show is going to continue right after these brief messages. We invite you to... You own a car you love. Well, why not let Gulf Coast Auto Shield protect it? Houstonian John Gray invites you to his state-of-the-art facility to introduce you to his specialist team of auto enthusiasts. We promise you'll be impressed. Whether you're looking to massage your original paint to a like-new appearance, apply a ceramic coating, install a paint protection film, nano-ceramic window tint, or new windshield protection called ExoShield, Gulf Coast Auto Shield is where Houston's car people go. Curbed your wheels? Instead of buying new, why not have them repaired? How about a professionally installed radar detector? Gulf Coast Auto Shield does that too. Get a peek inside the shop and look at the services offered by getting online and heading to gcautoshield.com. Better yet, stop by their facility at 11275 South Sam Houston Tollway, just south of the Southwest Freeway, and get a personal tour. Gulf Coast Auto Shield is your place to go for all things exterior. Call them today, 832-930-5655 or gcautoshield.com. Gift giving should be meaningful, and we have an idea. A hand-painted custom illustration of your car from one of the nation's leading artists. You've seen his work at car shows and on display at the Hemi Hideout. Now you can have an illustration or car poster customized for you, a friend, or loved one. Bill Seitz is a real car guy that speaks the language and will be happy to guide you through the process. No matter what the day, birthday, anniversary, or any day, an Autographics custom illustration adds an extra touch of class to any home. Call Bill today, 832-922-0963. That's 832-922-0963. That's it for this podcast episode of the In-Wheel Time Car Show. I'm Don Armstrong, inviting you to join us for our live show every Saturday morning on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and our InWheelTime.com website. Podcasts are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeart Podcast, Podcast Addict, TuneIn, Pandora, and Amazon Music. Keep listening, and we'll see you soon.